Hi everybody, my name's Nathan. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's been very helpful for me personally. That is nature. Um, I'm going to talk about how nature can help you grow as a person and help people develop in their personal lives. And it can help build a better bond with the earth. It can help you build a better sense of awareness and sense of yourself. Um, and I'll also be interviewing three different people who have had very, like, a lot of time in nature. I'll be interviewing my father, my grandfather on my mother's side, and my father's mom, so my grandmother. Um, so I hope you all enjoy. Thank you for watching.
Want us to scoot forward some?
It's fine because we're both in frame.
Okay.
All right. So I have here my father. So give us a little background, like where you grew up.
I grew up in southeast Texas in a very rural area. Is about 100 miles north of Houston, and that area is called the Piney Woods or the Trinity River Basin. And we basically lived on a peninsula that kind of stuck out into a lake. It was not very heavily populated, and it was uh, it was very inconvenient if you needed something from the store. So you had to drive a long ways to get there.
Okay. So you pretty much answered the first question. The first question is, what was it like growing up in the woods? I mean, obviously you lived in a house, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you just kind of lived like
Well,
off in the woods, like in a tree or something.
right. So it was like there were not a lot of paved roads, so you lived way down a dirt road. And it was most of what you had came from the woods. So most of your meat was game that you hunted in the woods. Um, we knew which berries and fruits we could eat from the woods. We also gathered roots and stuff like that. And sometimes we would trade meat from the animals to local farmers nearby for fresh vegetables. We did go to the store for staple, but again, you had to go like on the weekends because you didn't have time to go after school or work or whatever because you lived too far away. The nearest fairly large town was 40 something odd miles away, as was the nearest hospital.
Um, so living so far away from everything, living out in the wilderness, what kind of skills kind of arose from that? Not being right next to a grocery store, not being right next to everything.
You learn to rely on yourself and your family or the people that were real close by. Everybody leaned on each other because there was nobody else. So you know, if something was messed up on somebody's house roof, for instance, everybody around would help him on his roof. If something happened to your roof, everybody around would help you on your roof. Everybody helped each other out. It wasn't about money, it was about helping people out.
So like better like teamwork.
Yes, it was a community, and it was a sharing community. Um, we we also fished the creeks and the lake and everything, and there was stock pond that we would keep fish in that we could pull fish from anytime we needed it. And again, if neighbors needed fish, they could come down there and get some fish out of the stock pond. That's just the way it was. Um, Everybody, you learn to be aware of your surroundings because you were out there a lot of times by yourself and you had to hear what was going on around you. So, yeah, basically self responsibility and self reliability. And you learned to trust people that were close to you.
Um, Now, even though it's a lot of work, having to be self-reliant and really work for everything that you had, was it more peaceful living away from everything?
Yes, it was. But at the same time, you found ways to stay busy or you'd get bored. After moving here and being close to the city for so long, I go absolutely nuts. I get so bored whenever we go back down there. So, but yes, it's simpler. There's not as much stress and not as much worry.
All right, one last question, and I'm gonna ask everyone this question. How do you think spending so much time outside in the woods, in the wild, how do you think that has helped you grow as a person?
That's a tough one. Again, it comes back down to being. I mean, I know that if I ever had to, that I could survive on my own. I can rely on myself. I know this. I know survival skills, and I know. You're just a lot more aware of risks and the dangers of those risks and how to avoid them. You're just a lot more aware of everything around you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Gotta wait a little bit before you.
All right, so this is my grandmother. This is my dad's mom. So for a little bit of background, do you want to give us a little background, like where you came from, like how you guys lived in the woods for a while?
I grew up in a small town in East Texas. Population to date is 214 people. Very small rural town. We had hundreds of acres of property around us, around where our house was, and we were free to roam and play and go anywhere we wanted at any time. And my mom would just say, stay within earshot, so if I call you for supper, you can come in. We were thinking, yeah, right, Mom. So anyway, but we were just free to play. We had creeks. We made our own fun because we lived 30 miles to the nearest large town. So I was always exposed to being around creeks and rivers and woods, and it was just a lot of fun.
All right, so I have a few questions. So my first question is going to be, how do you use nature as a form of therapy? Do you find it therapeutic just being outside?
Absolutely. When you are outside, if you have a safe place to walk, a nature center or a mountain trail that's used by families and groups of people where you're safe, you can go for long, slow walks, just paying attention to the things around you. It takes your mind away from the stresses of the hassle of every day. It calms you down, and it just lets your mind go in a place of peace so that you relax. And this is energizing, just to relax and get away from all of the stresses from day-to-day living.
Now I understand that you go on quite a few hikes, walks through nature reserves, and so do you find peace in that, in nature?
Yes.
In going through nature reserves? And
yeah, there's living here in Georgia, there's so many opportunities to go to different locations with different regions and geographical areas that take in so many things. I've not done much going to the beaches, but in this area, I worked at a nature preserve for 8 years, and we stressed teaching to children and opened the world up to them. But it's just being outdoors and walking through the trails is just second nature to me because I've always enjoyed doing it and I like to explore. I have a strong interest in native plants, and when I look at trees, I don't see trees. I see the name of a tree, the type of a tree. I know the characteristics of a tree, the growth habits, the type of, if it's an evergreen, a deciduous. Same thing with the flowers. We had a native plants interpretive trail, and I learned so many of the native plants to this region, to the southeast, that I could recognize them by the bloom, the seed, the leaves, even the roots, because I worked with them daily, kept journals on them. And it's just, I've always loved plants, and so when I'm around plants, I'm a happy person.
That being said, what kind of valuable skills do you think you develop from spending that much time in nature? Like, what kind of skills kind of are inevitable that can kind of...
Well, the skills that I have gained is an understanding of the plants, the animals, and being able to share that with other people, especially young people who may not have an older person in their lives like I grew up with. I grew up with having great-grandparents, grandparents, my mom, and it was just, when we would be walking, they would point things out and say, well, this is a this type of violet, or this is this type of violet, or this is this tree, and they'd tell me what it was used for. And it's valuable to be able to pass that on to someone else so that they can grow and learn and understand and open that world to them, so that they're not afraid, because the inner city kids, when they come to a nature center, so many of them are actually terrified because they've not been anywhere except in buildings, sidewalks, playgrounds, and things of that nature. And it can be a challenge with kids in the city, even in a safe place of a nature preserve, because they're terrified. And so it's really nice to be able to share that with them. And there's so many different aspects of things to teach them, be it about the water and ponds and rivers and creeks, the water life, the birds. You teach them adaptation of plants, how they can live in the water by hollow roots. They can take in their oxygen through the hollow tubes in their roots. But it's just endless, and you make it fun. For me, it's fun, and I've always shared it with my grandkids, this one here. And so it's just a fun thing for me, but at the same time, I know that I'm teaching something and passing something on that they will recall and be able to use later, and can pass it on to someone that they know later in life.
All right, one more question. How do you think nature, spending time in nature and really building that kind of bond with the earth, has helped you personally?
Well, it has definitely helped to form the person that I am, and have always, and because I've always just enjoyed learning about things and just checking things out. I've always been very inquisitive, and I think I forgot your question.
Oh, it's just how has it helped you as a
How's it
person?
helped me as a person? It's just always been a place to give me calm and to reflect. And I know that even in very stressful situations, I can find peace and solace when I go and I spend time just soaking up nature, the sounds of the woods, the birds, the leaves, the wind blowing through the trees, the sound of the grass the crunching of the leaves, all of these aspects of the woodlands, they have always just made me who I am, because it's just been a major part of my life, my whole life.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, so this is my grandfather on my mother's side. So, could you give us a little background, like where you came from, what it was like, you know?
I came from Louisiana, was born in Lafayette, Louisiana, and grew up in Andrew. It's a small town 8 miles away from Kaplan, which is a bigger town, and that's where I went to school in Kaplan. And I was grew up as a farmer, helping my dad on tractors and pulling out indigos and flagging for the airplanes so they could plant the rice and fertilizer and the poison. And then we had to harvest it. We had combines, and we had 3 farmers in the neighborhood. We stick together and do each other's crops, and whoever helped, we had their crops too. And then I got out of that and went into construction in the oil field and worked as a roustabout, which is a person that does anything to make things go, weld, dig ditches, anything to make the job work. And then I moved, I was still in oil field and was running heavy equipment, and did that for Central Industries. And then I left and came to Georgia and started out in the trash business, and I did that for 30 years. And now I'm retired.
All right. So, first question here. So, in Louisiana, so my on my dad's side, they're all from Texas, right? And you'd think like Louisiana and Texas, they're right next to each other. Louisiana's a completely different world from Texas. It's a lot like marshier, it's a lot more humid. So being in the wilderness and there, you know, coming from a small town, could you expand on what it was like being like away from everything?
It's quiet. Didn't hear airplanes or trains. It was mostly farmers, and just everyone helped each other as times would go. If someone had a hard time, everyone else would pitch in and help. And it was just peaceful.
Okay. So, what kind of skills do you think kind of rise from being out, you know, and away from everything out in, because obviously you have to go out in the wilderness and like catch crawfish and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of skills do you think kind of comes from being in nature so often, being away from everything?
Learn how to do things on your own without having any help. Learn how to take care of yourself, bring your own water and things to eat. Learn how to fish, catch crawfish and all that. You go crawfishing and the whole family gets together and they learn how to work together when you're a bunch.
So, teamwork basically.
Yes.
It grows you closer to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, one last question, and I've asked everybody this question. How do you think being in nature, being kind of away from everything, spending so much time out in nature has helped you as a person?
Helped me to adapt being alone, how to solve problems, and just being able to appreciate life with what you have to work with, or what you have to go through in life to survive, without all the things we have now. Like then we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have pagers. We just went out and did whatever, and at the end of the day went home and cleaned up and ate.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I hope you guys all enjoyed my very long video. And if you didn't, I'm sorry. I enjoyed catching up with some of my family members. But the main things that I can say I've gathered is that they all seem to have in common, like as far as answers go, is sense of awareness of their surroundings and a similar skill set. So yeah, spend some time outside. It doesn't hurt. You know, it's nice outside. You can build valuable skills, and it's nice. It's therapeutic. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later.